We're not catching the cars in the background.
Yeah, a little bit, but your bodies are doing most of the work watching the noise.
You want us all to introduce ourselves before we start talking?
That'd be helpful.
All right.
Sure.
Tell us when you're ready.
Yeah. Ready to roll?
We're good to go.
Well, I'm Jason Solomon, and are we introducing first? Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah.
I'll do Jason Solomon.
I'm Brian Mueller, Sheriff of Bennington County.
Don Hendrick, Chief of Police.
So what we're doing here today is, three of us, obviously concerned citizens and folks who care greatly about this community, and we wanted to just come and do a joint statement regarding our concerns with regards to IM29. It's obviously on the ballot. Folks are going to vote the way they want to vote, but we felt like it was important that we shared, our concerns from our perspective. Each of us here exercising our First Amendment rights, just as everybody else gets to do. For me, I can speak on my behalf. I am deeply concerned with this passage of the negative consequences to our community, to the youth of our community, to the overall safety and well-being in our community, and the perception. If you travel around in places where recreational marijuana has been legalized, I don't think it's gotten better. It's only made those communities worse, in my opinion. And I don't want that for Rapid City. I want better for Rapid City. So I've already voted. I voted no on IM29. And I thought it was important to come out here and share my opposition to it. And obviously, we have two others here today that have their own views as well. And so I'll carry it over maybe to Sheriff Mueller.
Hi, I'm Brian Mueller. I'm the Bennington County Sheriff. And I work closely with leaders in our community, like the mayor and like the chief of police, with the top priority of keeping our community safe. And I do not believe that legalizing recreational marijuana helps us with that priority, specifically here in Rapid City in western South Dakota. We've learned a lot from our neighbors in Colorado about the impacts of marijuana on a community. And we know that the accidents, serious accidents, fatality accidents are going to go up if we legalize recreational marijuana. We know that work-related accidents and injuries are going to increase. And I'm most worried about the youth in our community and the impact that normalizing recreational marijuana will have on them in our future. So please join us in voting no on IM29.
And Don Hendrick, Chief of Police, Rapid City. I first want to start out and say that as law enforcement officials, we respect the will of the people. And there are folks already out there using marijuana through legal means, through a medical card. The thing that concerns me the most, though, most of what your law enforcement officers deal with on a daily basis has to do with impairment of some kind. And that concerns us that there will be more access to chemicals that can impair you. And for me in particular, having more access to our vulnerable populations, to include our youth, a lot of research and studies out there showing how THC can have a damaging impact on growing minds and the youth. And that's something very concerning from my aspect. And when people ask me, I say that having access to more substances isn't the answer for a vibrant community.
So with that, we're certainly willing to answer questions. For me, visiting with mayors where this is legalized, in particular in Colorado, which I had a chance to do months ago, they all cautioned me, if you cannot have this in your community, please don't. It has not helped us. And we've had to deal with the consequences ever since. So, that combined with the experiences that we see leads me to say, I don't think recreational marijuana is good for our community. And we want to just kind of be very frank and clear with folks. They expect to hear from me what I think on the issues. I'm sharing that. You have the right to vote the way you want. I have the right to vote the way I want. And I'm just telling you, as a citizen of this community, I oppose it. And I encourage others to do so as well.
At the end of the day, it will be up to the voters. And you just give some words of encouragement to encourage people to go out there and vote.
Well, absolutely. I think this election is so important. There's so many important issues on the ballot here in South Dakota. We have 7 issues on the ballot, let alone a presidential election, state legislature, and other offices. It is so important. I predict that this potentially could be the highest voter turnout in South Dakota history. And because there's a lot of passion on all these issues, I'm certainly passionate about it as well. Some of those passions are what led me to run for public office because I cared that deeply. I wanted to be involved and obviously, make changes where I could. So it is important. Your voice is heard. Your votes count. I encourage everyone, wherever you're at on the issues, to vote. But obviously, I'm telling you where I'm at and what I think is best for this community. I recognize and can respect that others disagree. That's fine. But I'm here exercising my right to share how I feel as well.
And then to Hedrick, could you give us some information on the specifics of the DUI that you might expect to increase once the if measure is passed?
Well, we've witnessed what's happened in other communities, not just from the driving aspect. We've also noticed how the schools in certain communities where this has been passed have noted problems there, hospitals, but also impairment is a major concern for us, and that's something that we felt we need to probably talk about. It is a very real factor.
And to Mayor Solomon, if you have any recollection of specific conversations, you mentioned that you've been speaking with mayors in Colorado. Can you give us specific conversations you might have had with mayors of cities of similar size?
Well, yeah, smaller size and larger. For example, I heard from the mayor of Aurora, Colorado. And, they are obviously right adjacent to Denver, Colorado, and they had concerns, about what was going on in Colorado. So what you've seen in a lot of these states where it's been legalized is a lot of the communities themselves that said, okay, well, the state law is this, but allow our communities to govern ourselves the way we see fit. And so you see that in places like Oregon and Colorado and others, where they have certain communities that will actually govern it a little bit differently than how the entire state does. I think that's important. So when you see that, we're mostly, primarily we're looking at the youth and overall safety. That's our number one concern. That's why we're here today. We're concerned about the overall well-being of our community. I want to be able to enjoy communities like this without smelling things everywhere I go, like I just did when I was in Denver. It's hard to go somewhere downtown without smelling marijuana everywhere. You're trying to go to Forest Field or something. I don't want that for Rapid City. I want better for us. This would be a great place to raise a family. Personally, I have seen the effects of marijuana on people that I know. And obviously that oftentimes will lead to harder drugs. Then I'm concerned about that on a personal level. I've just seen it up close and personal. I know what my own story is. But we also have the statistics. It doesn't take much to look at how our property crimes have increased. How a lot of things really get worse in terms of statistics, often wherever it is legalized. That's a concern for us.
My question would be more for Sheriff Mueller and Chief Hedrick. When you talk about how you often see intoxication and impairments involved in a lot of the crimes that your deputies and officers work with, do you feel that marijuana and alcohol are kind of equally the same problem? Is one of them worse than the other? What do you think?
I think when we just look down the street here, and you can't quite see it from here, we're pretty close to the CARE campus that is a joint venture with the Rapid City and Pennington County. And that facility is full of individuals whose lives have been impacted and shattered by substance abuse. The Pennington County Jail has a number of people who have made decisions who, as a result of being under the influence. So legalizing another substance that could cause impairment is not going to be helpful for our community.
If I could jump in on that, sure, before the chief goes in. Every parent knows this. You don't justify poor behavior by pointing to other poor behavior. You don't say, well, they're doing it, so I'm going to do it. You don't. Otherwise, that's never a recipe for something that's positive. So, yes, there are people that make poor choices with alcohol, but you don't use that to say, okay, therefore, let's do that with everything else. At some point, you have to draw lines. And as a culture, as a society, we have to decide where we draw the lines. Do we want this to be a great place to raise kids? Do kids thrive in an environment where recreational marijuana is everywhere? That to me is the bottom line. But, to get to his point, to equate it to alcohol, those are two different things. I think there are struggles with alcohol. So therefore, do we just want to add to it, or do we want to hold the line somewhere? You got to draw a line somewhere. Right now, we have a line. I say let's hold the line. Sorry, Chief Elliott.
No, you're good.
That's fair. I'll just clarify. My question was more along the lines of when officers are dealing with crimes. I'm curious if they typically see one being more often of a problem than the other, or if it's pretty even.
Honestly, impairment of all levels from multiple substances is a problem. And I think our standpoint is having more access and easier access to more chemicals that can be carried isn't always the answer.
So let's just whoever is it,
South Dakota has a felony level arrest law. We think that it's reasonable that Cotton County, you're right, we face a felony charge.
I think the problem here is you're talking about, there's still federal law. And so you still have to deal with that as well, with a lot of these things that they're working these out state by state when there's no consistency at the federal level. And that obviously is that things as well. You probably have to talk to the attorney. Their jobs are to enforce, my job too, to enforce the law. We don't do the court system, anything beyond that, I don't know. I think we might have opinions on it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks.
Okay, get ready.
Well, I was gonna ask her questions.
It's a lot.